Folks, welcome back to the Ecom Dispensary Knowledge Drop 007, 007 James Bond style. We're pushing through these, folks. We're pushing through these. Got a couple episodes here for you this week, as always. In this first one, topic of this should be number 30, is most people are literal children. I think this is going to be kind of a funny one. Scotty, I'm kind of excited to hear your take on this, and I expect some harsh roasts of people who fit this bill from your end. It's honestly kind of cringe. There are so many people who are adults, and when I say most people are literal children, I don't mean by age. I mean in the way that they act, the way that they think, the way that they operate, their level of emotional maturity. Um, it's absolutely nuts how low these things are for most people. Most people are little children. And basically, how I started thinking about this, one, I guess like the original inspiration for this is something that the boy Ben Settle, who, if you guys listen to our stuff, watch our stuff, you've probably heard me mention him a few times. I'm a big Ben Settle guy. He was one of the first big people that really taught me a lot about online business and marketing. Anyways, he talks about this, and he talks about how people are specifically in the online business, make money online space. Most people are literal children. They're freaking teenagers. So what kind of got me thinking about this as of late was I was just doing a bit of traveling, and I'm not going to give away too much info here because I don't want people to be able to identify who I'm about to talk about. Not that, he's like someone that people would know, but basically I was traveling, hanging out with one of my buddies, and I met one of his buddies, and we're going to call this guy Seth. So Seth is about my age. I think he's about 23, around that age. And I mean, he's a cool dude, I guess. I didn't dislike him necessarily. I don't necessarily think he's a bad person or anything. But in hanging out with him over the course of like a day or two, I just really got the feeling that he was just one of these people who is just still kind of a child, who just has not grown up. He's obviously a full grown ass man at this point. We're in our 20s. But there were a few things that he was doing that just really made me think this. For example, his his main demographic of like girls that he hangs out with are like girls that are like in high school, just a little questionable depending on who you are. That age difference, we're not going to go too much into that, but he hangs out with high school chicks. He's got a cool car, which I guess is like not as childish, but that's the thing, is that he's got a cool car, but he hangs out with high school chicks, and he still has never paid taxes. He's been doing ecom in some capacity for a number of years now. I think maybe even longer than I've been doing it. He still never paid taxes, and from my understanding, he's still operating in a pretty low at a pretty low scale with his business stuff. Like he's doing it, but it's not like a huge thing that he's making a bunch of money from. And despite being in the game for a couple of years, he's still doing like somewhat small numbers. I honestly have no idea the exact numbers he's doing. I could be wrong about that, but that was kind of the impression that I got. So we're hanging out with him.
Is he making money? Is this what he does full time?
I'm not entirely sure. I think so. And I really should get more information on this dude. I didn't really ask as many questions as I probably should have, considering we were going to make an episode where we basically just roast him. But in hanging out with him, I just saw all of these traits where he's doing this kind of thing. He's doing ecom. He's involved in online business, but he's just like acting like a child. And I feel like that was one of the big reasons that he probably wasn't as successful in business as he would probably like to be, as some other people are. And it's just such a common problem that I literally just feel like we had to talk about this on the ecom dispensary, because most people, I don't think, obviously, like, no one thinks that they act like a child. If you ask, it's kind of like one of those things where everyone, if you ask someone, they'll be like, yeah, everyone's dumb. Like the majority of people in this world are dumb, but no one thinks that they're the dumb person. But like statistically, they probably are. It's kind of like one of those things. And I wanted to talk about this and like kind of give you guys some of these traits and stuff and things that are just childish. And you can't be successful in business if you are a literal child. So Scotty, that's my little intro for this. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, sounds like a pretty smart fella hanging out with young chicks and not paying taxes. I don't really see what the issue is, Grandpa. Grandpa.
Oh, damn. I think we should just end it there.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, all those things you mentioned just make you sound like a grandpa. I think the literal child thing it becomes an issue when people miss deadlines, when they don't get shit done because they were out partying. That is when it becomes an issue. Or when they didn't get shit done because they were hanging out with friends. Um, when they don't get shit done, or they don't start a business because they're worried about their friends think, or if they ask their friends, none of which are in business, for an opinion, and then if I tell them something, they come back to me with, oh, but I was talking about this with my buddies and XYZ. Those are more issues I see. Hanging out with high school chicks, although not socially accepted in the US. Um, I wouldn't say is a horrible thing. Having a dope car is more childish rather than cool, I would say. But
Yeah, the reason I included that in there is because like he's got the dope car, but like doesn't pay attention to like, I don't know, like real life adult shit.
yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. Now, would I want him to be my business partner? No. But I mean, at 23, I guess it's different in the States because you guys finish college at like 21, 22. So he'd be working his first job, which I think is when a lot of people kind of grow up, from what I saw living in the States. But I mean, at 23 in Switzerland, he'd be somewhere in the middle of his university career and he would very much still be a child. Um, yeah, I mean, it's interesting hanging out with people like this who don't have many responsibilities, don't pay bills, don't have a team, don't have a business, who are just in school, kind of living off their parents, living at home maybe. It's interesting hanging out with them. It's a very different perspective, but I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it in the sense of like their personality, but I think there is something seriously wrong with it if you have any aspirations of being successful in business. Because it's just not one of those things that you can act like a child and still be successful. Now, I got another story for you. This is off the cuff. This just came to my mind. So I guess this is probably a few years ago now. One of my buddies that I had met online, that I'd met through another one of my friends online, he did content stuff. And so we contracted him to do some content for, when I was running the Apple Watch strap store. So I had bought like 2 Apple Watches to use for content and stuff. So they were expensive, they were a couple $100 each. And so basically, we made a deal. We're going to do content. And I sent him the Apple Watches and he got us some content. It was okay. The first round that we did, it was okay. We used some of it. They didn't do a bad job. But then the second and third time that we paid them to get more content for us, they just like completely dropped the ball, didn't do at all what we were looking for, and just sent us a bunch of really just really shitty content. Honestly, it was just very half-assed. I remember like in a couple of the pictures, the band size was too big. They just like didn't take the time to tighten it, and you could see that like it was just not fitting right on their wrist, and it just looked really bad. So we paid them. The content was basically unusable, and then we decided to stop using them. So we're like, all right, so we're gonna, this is the last time, whatever. Like, no hard feelings. I wasn't like upset or anything. It just is what it is. And then basically they never sent us back those Apple Watches, which wasn't like a huge deal. It's like it was probably like a grand total worth of Apple Watches, which is no small amount, but it's not like, a huge deal. Anyways, long story short, it took us like 2 years to get those Apple Watches back. And I gave up on it because I didn't even really care. It wasn't even worth my time. But my former assistant, who's, you know, one of my good friends, he used to work for me. He doesn't work for me anymore. He just could not let that happen. Like, he literally felt like he'd gotten personally screwed over. So he just never let it go, and he kept bugging them over and over and over again. They would like block him, like block his number, and then he would text them from a different number and just like keep fucking laying into them. And eventually he was able to get them back. Um, but you know, point of the story is that the people that we were working with to do this content, you know, they were about my age. They were young, you know, kids basically. And I think this is the majority of the reason that the entire ecom space, you know, ecom education information space as a whole kind of has a bad reputation, is because it's mostly literal children. It's dudes who have absolutely no concept of building a business long term, who are just trying to make money right now. You know, they're immature, and a big part of that is just the age. Like, ecom attracts a younger person. And it's kind of funny to me now because looking back, like I'm acting like I'm like all old and wise now. I'm almost 24. I'm like basically a grandpa. You know, I've grown a lot since I was like 21, and now it's so obvious to me. It's like, yeah, don't do business with people who are fucking 18. Like, it's just not a smart move. Most people just are not mature. They're not reliable. They don't give a shit about anyone but themselves. And I think that gets better with age, but it's just a problem. It's a problem. So many people that I've worked with, so many contractors, you know, people that I've tried to do stuff with, it's just not worked out because I have a pretty high standard for like what I would expect someone that I'm working with. And very few people who are like in that age range of like 17 to like 21 even have a concept of like the things that I'm looking for or can be reliable or anything like that. And I don't know, point being, like, you just if you're not a literal child, if you just conduct yourself like an adult, you are literally ahead of like 95% of people.
Yeah. I think I mean, working with young freelancers and young like agency owners is a disaster. There are very, very few good ones who deliver on what they say they're going to do. And I mean, even outside of business, you can see this. I guess it probably happens at every age, but I see it with young people because I hang out with young people. But the amount of people who say they're going to do something, hey, I'm going to learn Spanish, hey, I'm going to lose weight, hey, I'm going to get in shape, hey, I'm going to train jiu-jitsu, and just don't do it or do it for a little bit and then stop. Or the people that talk about wanting to do something but never do it. I don't know if that's an age thing or just a human being thing, but that's, I mean, sometimes it's annoying to me. Most of the time, it's just kind of amusing because when these people say it, you already know they're not going to follow through, and that's just such a strange thing to me. Because I feel like I do 100% of the things I say I'm going to do, like actually 100%. I don't. If I say I want to do something, I actually want to do it, and I actually do it. So
I would agree with that. I think you're really good about that. You've always been a lot more mature for your age than, I mean, I would say of anyone that I know that's your age, Scotty, like, you are probably the most mature person of anyone that I know.
yeah, I get that a lot. I don't know. I mean, I started an online business when I was like 16, and I've definitely been unreliable for people once or twice in that time when I was like 16, 17. But yeah, the problem is when you promise something, when you're in the early stages of the business and you promise something to a client or another business partner or something, and then you realize that this business isn't working out and that it's not worth your time. At that stage, it's hard to then follow through on the promise. So that's kind of the issue where if you start a business yourself and you realize it's not working out, you just quit it and move on. And that might be the best decision for you. But the problem becomes when there's other people involved. So I mean, super simple example that I see a lot, young people, agency owners, if you hire an agency, they're just getting started. Perhaps you're one of their first clients, you pay them $1,000 a month, which is a super cheap rate for whatever they're doing. But hey, they're just getting started. They want the experience. They basically beg you for the work. But then afterwards, they grow, they're progressing, and maybe this person's a buddy and you're probably happy for them that they're progressing, but they still owe you work and they still owe you work for $1,000 a month. So you become a very low priority and that work quality tends to suffer because what they are focused on as a business owner and as a service provider is scaling their business, getting more clients, getting higher paying clients. Once they have those higher paying clients, you know those clients are going to be higher priority than you are. So yeah, that's something I see a lot with young agency owners. Maybe all agency owners, but especially young ones. And
I got one off the top of my head I can think of.
I can think of one as well. Shout out Andy. There's a name we will mention.
Yeah, I mean, that was another good example of, you know, I hired him to do some work a long time ago for email and it just like did not get done. And yeah, I don't know what I was expecting.
Which is unfortunate when he's your roommate and you know he's out in Florida partying.
Yeah, I mean, we basically made a deal after that like, you know, I love you as a person, but like I'm never going to do any sort of work with you, and we stuck to that. And you know, it's worked out well. Our relationship is has improved since then, I would say. But I think like the main takeaway that I want you guys to have from listening to this about me and Scotty basically ranting about how people are fucking children. The number one thing for me, the way that you will not be a child. And all right, let me back up for a second. If this doesn't seem like an important concept, if you're just like, why am I even listening to this? Like, this is not like a fucking business tactic. Um, this is an extremely important concept because if you conduct yourself like a child, you will not be successful in business. It's just how it goes. You will lose clients, you will lose sales, you will lose money. Um, there's no way to be successful in business if you are a child. And this doesn't necessarily have to be directly correlated with your age. Like Scotty's a great example. At 16, he was probably more mature and less of a child than most 21-year-olds. And I think that's been a big reason that he's been successful in business. It's a big reason that me and Scotty have been partners for so long and, you know, still are and plan to be for a long time. Scotty is one of only about 2 people that I've worked with for longer than like a year. Most people are here today, gone tomorrow. They're unreliable, whatever. It's very, very rare. And if you can just basically getting to the point, like the number one way I think personally that you can not be a child is to say or to do what you say you're going to do and to just be a reliable person and be straightforward and just be honest. Like Scotty was talking about how, you know, if you enter into a partnership with someone or something, and then it's not going as well as it once was, there's not as high ROI for you. Most people, like the children people, are just going to like kind of let that fall off, not really respond to you. They're going to stop putting in work, but they're not really going to say anything to you. Whereas like the adult thing to do is just be like, send them a message or give them a call. Just be like, hey, this is what's going on. I don't have the mental energy or capacity, or it doesn't make sense anymore. You know, I didn't just want to let this fall to the wayside. I wanted to be upfront with you, let you know what's going on. And then you can just end the relationship on good terms. I think that's a really great example. I mean, Scotty, what else would you say? Like, what are the main ways that people can not be fucking children?
I think it's do what you say you're going to do. And like, that's 100% of the time kind of thing. Like that is a realistic expectation that you do everything that you say you're going to do. And it starts with simple stuff that doesn't involve anyone else. If you say you are going to get in shape and lose weight this year, do it. There's never a reason not. Or stop saying things that you're not going to follow through on. Because there's a lot of people that will say things that they know they're not going to follow through on. Just stop doing that. And it starts with personal stuff and then it extends to business. You have to hold yourself to higher standard. And that maybe even if later you decide, hey, maybe this isn't my biggest goal, or maybe this wasn't a greatest idea, but if you promised it to someone, you just fucking pull through and do it.
Yeah. And I mean, along those same lines, I think you got to learn when to say no. You got to learn how to say no to most things because you don't have room on your plate to do everything that comes your way. And you can't just be saying yes to everything and then just like ignoring it. And like, that's just a terrible way to do business, terrible way to operate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's the basic gist, y'all. Most people are just little stunted munchkins and they act like children. And this is so especially true in the e-com and dropshipping space. And social media has really just only made this worse. Like people are just not living life, not having life experiences, and they're just like remaining freaking children. Um, Stop acting like a child. Grow up, act like an adult. You can still have fun. You can still do fun shit. You can go get drunk and do drugs and hang out with your friends and stuff. I'm not saying don't do that. I was saying when you're operating in business, don't act like a child. Act like an adult. It's really rare, honestly, to find people that do this. And if you are one of those people, other people who are not children are going to recognize that and they're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to give value to you. They're going to help you out. And it's just your life's going to be better. Your business is going to be better. And that is my sage advice for the day. Stop being a freaking child.
I'm glad you got the stunted little munchkin fox in there. Would have been a shame if that was in the notes, but not in the episode.
Yeah, I cleaned it up a little bit. I left the fucks out of it, but yeah, the actual thing in my notes here is stunted little munchkin fucks. So maybe that tickled your pickle a little bit. All right, folks. I think that's it for episode number 30. We'll see you guys in the next episode where we are talking about our brand, me and Scotty's ecom brand, where we're currently at with it, what we're focused on, giving you guys a little bit of behind the scenes look into what we're doing and how we're operating. So we'll see y'all there.